Welcome, folks, to another edition of the Sports Desk. I'm your host, Carl Dubs Catliff. As you can see, I'm rolling solo for a couple of shows now. My co-host seems like he's gone and left me. Nevertheless, we were tackling some of our national sports that was played in the British Virgin Islands from in the 50s. And this is our last leg of it. Cricket is one of the main national sports, so to speak. Back then, it was one of the sports that was played among young and old. And in the studios with me, I have the president of the Cricket Association, and I'll let him introduce himself. We were supposed to have some folks from back then who can give us a little history, but we went and did some research ourselves. So we will be able to share some of that history with you. But before I go ahead, I just want to let you guys know. The number on the screen is to text and to call. If you guys want to share in the information with us, text us or give us a call. Now we jump right in the studios with me, no other than Mr. Charlie.
Well, yes, thank you, Carl. Nice to be here
it's
again.
It's a long time I've been trying to get you here, you know.
A lot of people will say it's too often.
Yes, I like it when it's often. Now we're in your sport. Tell us a little bit about what's going on in your sport.
Well, cricket, as you know, is a sport that is steeped in history. Unfortunately, that history is maybe getting dimmer and dimmer in terms of how we proceed into the future. Cricket, again, is a sport that needs a certain amount of space to be developed and play. It's very hard to reduce that size and then be meaningful on a bigger circuit. So although domestically you can play virtually on anything, once you go abroad and play regional or inter-island cricket, it has to be on a first-class standard which has its own dimensions, and they need to be replicated back home so that our players are obviously better prepared to compete. Now, we know the stories behind all that. That's a long time history. We're never going to get back to that point. So we fight on with the kids, and we see hopefully one day that one of those or two of those will become shining lights for the future.
As stands right now, do you guys have a home for cricket?
We use Greenland.
Okay, is that to standard?
It's no, not to, well, first class standard cricket is played on grass.
Right.
And you have to have certain facilities that are integrally part of the venue. So although we get by at Greenlands and it's been wonderful for us to be able to have it, it can't be used for anything above domestic league 2020 type cricket. And for that it's even a bit small because, as people will know, the ball disappears an awful long way into the hedgerows and it's a very expensive game.
Well, folks, in case you didn't know, cricket was one of the first sports played right here in the British Virgin Islands. I have some history that my good colleague shared with me. I'll try to read it to you. And it brings you right back to where it got started. So it says cricket was introduced in the British Virgin Islands by our doctor of the early 1900s, Dr. T.L.E. Clark, a native Barbadian who held the post of medical officer for a short period, act as commissioner. During the early 1900s, when St. Thomas and St. Croix were under Danish rule, cricket was one of the only outdoors games, both the Danish and the British Virgin Islands, but in the Danish and British Virgin Islands. There were quite a few teams from St. Thomas at the time. Occasionally, teams came over from St. Thomas to compete. The cricket ground at the time was in the area now occupied by buildings of the police headquarters. I think that's the little phase that we saw. So you're going to see a little piece of what's showing on the screen right now. That goes back from the 1500s, from the 50s, sorry, when cricket was played here. It also says, with the arrival of Major Peebles as commissioner after the end of the First World War, the venue was changed to the now known as the Old Recreation Ground. There were two outstanding teams in the Rotown area at that time. The Tortola Cricket Club comprised mostly of uptown boys and included Captain Dr. Clark, Evan Evans, Dalton DeCarcio, Aubrey's dad, Oliver Georges, the head teacher of the Methodist School, George Davis, and others. The Surprise Cricket Club comprised mostly of the downtown boys, Arthur Theatley, Fordo Creaky, Randall Dawson, Higby Evans, and others. There were also, at the same time, a very strong team in the East End Long Look area, captained by the head teacher of East End School, Mr. Richards, and Antiguan, and included some stubborn batsmen like the two young Crab brothers, and a good bowling from the captain, Captain Gordon's son, who is a steamer crew member, had been to England during and after the World War, and had probably played some cricket in the interim, often had the batsman in trouble with his off breaks. Something new to them at that time. Competition among these three continued until the players aged and faded out. During the late 1920s, a combined Tortolian team went to St. Croix by sailing boat for a match. Due to the angry channel between the two islands, the lack of sustainable transportation, such trips were not followed up. So that's a little history there, gathered by my good fellow right here. It speaks about cricket from way back when, as we were talking about those years, Charlie.
It's a long time now.
Cricket goes back a long time.
Over 100.
Oh man!
I tell you.
And I was surprised.
Feels like it
I'm
sometimes
surprised to
too.
know that cricket was played so early in the years of the British. It was the only sport at that time.
Yeah, but I have heard stories from talking to the likes of Mr. Shirley and a few others over the years, how it did used to be an integral part of society. You know, people would come from all over to head to town on a weekend. Families would come and sit and watch cricket. Those days, like they have probably around the world, to be fair, have all gone. And it's how the games, not only cricket but sport, transform themselves to meet the demands of a modern society. So whilst we have the history to look back on with fond memories, very emotive and impassioned images crop up when you were reading those words.
Of course.
But we have to move forward. You know.
Okay.
We can't rely on what a game was. It's what it has to become to survive that's important.
Now tell me, in today's cricket in the British Virgin Islands, what are some of the challenges that you're facing?
Oh, God.
Besides the ground, of course.
Well, yeah, the ground, I guess, is the main one. But I'm also very conscious that to be or to play at the next level as the BVI, we need to have BVI Islanders obviously playing the game. It's very difficult and very hard to go away as a BVI team which is full of Vincentians or Guyanese or Jamaicans or English or whatever it may be. And we seem to have slipped a little bit. A few years ago, 10, 12 years ago, we had a fair smattering of locally born players, belongers as well. But it seems to have, like we were saying about their players getting old and moving on, it's been that development process which has been lacking. So whilst we've enjoyed some good times with the current crop of players, they've kind of got old and we were living in their shadows of success and we forgot about the next generation. So now we have a gap to fill.
Would you say some of the former players back then, would you say that they have given back to the sport of cricket, or they just left it and it just dropped off the scene? I mean, you probably just coming into it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved in cricket here, 12 years.
Right. Because I know back in my days, I watched a lot of cricket played here, but like you just said, there was a lot of expatriates along with a lot of locals. But my thing is, I don't know if because of what happened to the A. Shirley grounds when they removed cricket is why cricket died and these guys, really give back. But, I mean, what's your take on it?
I mean, it would have definitely dulled the enthusiasm not to have such a great place to play. I mean, it's a great venue.
And I remember seeing a lot of teams coming here to play.
Yeah, and even now when you go there, you can almost still sense that there was something happening of great importance a few years back. But obviously track and field has also got a role and a place that has to be filled, and other sports that use it have to also be accommodated. So maybe cricket was a victim of its own success to a degree, also of its own stupidity in terms of not having development. And I remember a long time ago having a conversation, maybe being slightly naive on politics and whatever else that goes on, but for a sport to have had use of a ground or a venue for 35, 40 years and then to lose it overnight would never have happened hardly anywhere else in the world. Because that sport would have been so strong with development programs and teams and clubs and infrastructure that it would never even been thought of.
And I think, Charlie, this is what I see happening with a lot of our sports today, because just like cricket, netball, I can remember, was one of our big sports back then. I used to enjoy watching netball. And I mean, I'm trying to revive it, but it seems like it's like pulling teeth, I mean, they have a venue, but it's overrun by bushes and hoodlums and all that kind of stuff like that. And it's kind of hard. I mean, it's easier to get that done than, because they have a venue, you don't, And the thing is, I think a lot of our kids too, when they hear about cricket, what's it for you? Is it a turnoff, or how do you get kids involved in cricket? Outside of the expatriate kids.
It's again that societal thing which has become a very quick fix society for the younger generation. And one of the biggest issues we face is the sun's hot, and you have to stand a long time out in the field.
Yes.
Softball, baseball has more breaks than cricket does, so that's slightly more acceptable to the current generation. But obviously the indoor sports are even more acceptable.
Yeah, under AC.
And also the educational process has switched away from maybe following a British system to an American system. So again, cricket would fall by the wayside because we can't offer scholarships, because there isn't any scholarships available. Right. I mean, there might be one or two, but very hard to find. So you can't fault anybody, to be honest. It's just a natural progression and development of kids and how they groom themselves and how they want to be seen. TV influence. You hardly ever find cricket on TV. Right now, for example, the West Indies are playing test matches, but you wouldn't know that.
I wouldn't.
I could throw a plug in where you could find out, but it's a rival station. So
Right.
But basically, the whole diminishing product has cost dearly the future of the sport.
I think an easy fix to it is, and I heard whispering right now in Ledgeco, is the fact that a lot of our kids that have expatriate parents who are familiar with the cricket, you know, they might, you know, be the ones to target when it comes to that. But then the thing is, again, we're fighting the paper issue of trying to get them legal passports and all that kind of stuff like that. And I think if that happens, then we may see a lot more in a different sports progressing, because like cricket, I mean, they played a lot of cricket, so it tends to follow your parents.
Yes, yeah. Obviously, a lot of them come here, and then once they settle, they'll want to play what they know. And to a degree, you have to, as adults or as people who can influence things, you have to forget your own prejudice or your own negativity or your own kind of lack of, or your enthusiasm can die, because obviously you're fighting something that you know could be good, but it's too much like hard work eventually, and we all feel like stepping away and whatever else. But you have to remember that if there's one or two children out there that want to experience something or may have a natural talent, it's up to us to find them and give them the opportunity. And if it's cricket, it's cricket. If it's tennis, whatever sport, you know, it's up to us to put away all those things and just get the kid what he needs.
I remember that when we had the Buster Cup here. I mean, it was one of a kind, and I think that was the first stage of sports tourism that I think the countries had ever seen, where it was on such a large scale, where people came from all over and these are things that I've been singing to the different governments, you know, about the sports tourism aspect of sports. You know, had we even had a cricket pitch right now, we could have been doing, you know, test matches.
Yeah, I mean,
and stuff like
obviously, the ironic side of a sport that is predominantly down island,
right,
is that it actually has a larger fan base than any other sport, because they all want to come and see, and they all want to look at their team or their friends from back home or whatever it may be. And I remember shortly after the Shirley Ground closed, the Leeward Islands cricket tournament was being hosted in St. Thomas, but most of the teams, especially Novitians, wanted to come here.
Right.
Because A, it's a little easier, but B, because they have lots of family and friends.
Exactly.
And when I said to them, well, we can't because we haven't got a ground, they said, don't worry, we'll still come.
So did they?
No, they played cricket in the end, but the thought process was they were so much in love with the atmosphere and obviously their memories of the AO Shirley and cricket and family and friends and the fans and supporters, that here was the place to come to play.
But you know, I found, Charlie, that happens in a lot of our sports here, even in basketball, which is one of the most popular sports. A lot of the teams, you know, a lot of players want to come to British Virgin Islands. I mean, the hospitality is good, the food is good, the atmosphere is good. So, you know, a lot of folks feel safe when they come here. I mean, and it's easier, like you said, to get to compared to going in the U.S. You don't need all those visa restrictions and stuff. So, and this is why, like I said, Charlie, I've been trying to promote this sports tourism thing so much, because it's easier for people to come here than to go into the U.S., especially our Caribbean brothers and sisters, you know.
Yeah.
I mean...
Well, there's plenty of opportunity now, because obviously the Twilight track meet, I hear,
of course,
will be back next year.
Hopefully.
The new stadium that's being built by football will be able to host regional international matches very shortly. And obviously with baseball, softball getting back into the Olympic program, hopefully they will see the need to bring in teams to generate income and produce interest. So overall, every sport can now almost, within say 2 years, every sport should be able to host a major tournament of its own in the territory, generate funds for themselves and bring great excitement.
Well, you know, folks, on that note, we're going to take a quick short break and come right back. We're going to touch that same topic that he's talking about. If you just joined us, this is a Sports Desk. Check us out in a few.
Sports Desk is sponsored by Flow.
This is how we flow. This is us. This is how we live. This is how we flow.
For decades, BVI has relied on financial services for its economic prosperity and the standard of living we've come to enjoy.
Times have changed. Competition has grown. International pressures have intensified, and the BVI must adapt.
BVI Forward is the government's strategy to strengthen the financial services industry. It is a campaign of far-reaching initiatives serving as the engine that will drive the continuing evolution and innovation of financial services in the BVI. This will help to maintain the territory's competitive advantage in the context of changing international regulatory landscape and growing competition.
There are 10 initiatives under the BVI Forward campaign. Revamp the International Finance Center, strengthen the business development function, engage the population, build BVI lander capability, pursue tax initiatives, enhance customer service at the Financial Services Commission, attract and offer value-added services, reform immigration and labor, invest in infrastructure and establish a dedicated delivery unit to coordinate and drive implementation.
BVI Forward. It's about me, it's about you, it's about all of us.
It's about working together to safeguard the future prosperity of the British Virgin Islands.
This is us. This is how we play. This is how we work. This is how we flow.
Welcome back, folks. If you just joined in with us, our number's on the screen to call, 342-3882. If you want to send us a text, it's the same number. In the studios, we're talking right now about cricket, one of the first sports that was played back in the 50s, right here. And I have a proposition, Charlie, that I was thinking about, you know. As I've been going through the different sports with the different, the older folks who was given a history, what I think I'd like to see happen is I want to do someone like how should I put it, like a award ceremony for those folks who've played back then that never really had the opportunity to get the awards. I'd like to see that happen for, you know, all of the older players in the different sports, from softball, track and field, cricket. You know, I'd like to see that happening, and I mean, it's never too late. Like my mom said, give her flowers while she's alive.
Yeah.
And those guys who played back then, you know, even from Ralph O'Neill's time, those give them their flowers while they're alive.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see, even if any of you guys would love to help me on this, I'd like to promote an award ceremony where these guys could dress up style, come and have dinner and receive an award. I'm looking for sponsors, first of all, to do that. I think that's something easy. You guys, we could target the folks from way back when we go back from the 50s, come right up into, you know, at least the 90s. You know.
There's lots still around. Well,
Right.
certainly in cricket, there's lots still
Right,
around.
and a lot of the athletes who play the different sports, you know, give them their flowers while they're award. You know, give them an award. Appreciate them for what they did back then, because we don't hear a lot of them. We see them on the street every day, and you never know that guy was an athlete. 'Cause
No, it's
I've
amazing.
been learning so much. I mean, from talking to these guys about who was who back then, and I see them today, and I mean, I could never believe it.
Well, the problem with that, of course, is they all give them nicknames.
There you go.
So you know them as one thing, I know him as another.
Exactly.
And it's the same guy that we're talking about and saying that can't be him.
But
the man who sells CDs across from Bolo's. You see him every day,
You
right?
know him as Cloud, right?
I don't know him as something. I can't say what I know.
And he's a Calypsonian, right?
But he's a great cricketer too.
Oh, yes, yes. I
Yeah,
know.
he played a lot of cricket.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
I'm
out there.
familiar.
There's a lot of people that, as you say, deserve recognition because obviously these days it tends to be a lot quicker to get.
Right.
Because a lot of people just want to honour people because it makes the league look better or
But
the league look.
these
something.
folks again were the pioneer of
Yes.
getting the sport where it's at, and I think we did them
Without
injustice by not honoring them back then. So I'd like to make I'd like to make a
Yeah, I mean,
proposal for folks to do that. Let's get together and honor our heroes or champions from back then. I mean, it's maybe a big task, but I
Some of
think
them will be the same from each sport, of course.
yeah.
As you go further back, there was
get-
less sports.
You
so-
get them from each sport. I think the 4 sports that we're talking about right now, which is the softball, I think these are the national sports: softball, track and field, cricket. What else we had back
Can I,
then?
can I quote you on that tomorrow morning? These are the national
Well,
sports, said
I know.
Carl Scott.
Well, you know what? I know you want to say cricket was a national sport.
No,
but
I don't.
From,
No,
based on the
I've got to
information,
drive
that I-
home tonight.
Based on the information that I have here in front of me,
Yes.
it just goes to prove that it was the 4 sport.
The pioneer, the granddaddy of them all.
Yes,
Yes.
and they didn't say national.
Multinational, maybe.
But it didn't say national. But again, because I saw some history on softball going back that era too. If you go into the museum, in the Sugar Works Museum, they have history about the softball and the teams that then been to St. Thomas and St.
Yeah,
Croix.
cricket and softball are closely interlinked.
And I think that's what happened. One either transferred from the other and killed one or something like that. Because I saw a lot of, I remember watching Manjeka and those guys when they used to play cricket and you went into softball, and you couldn't pitch them low because they would definitely connect. So, I mean, like I said, I'd like to be able to, if I can, it'd be something that I'd love to see happen where we can honor a lot of our past athletes. And another thing too, I want to say this to our government. I'm tired of driving against the stadium and watching a plain wall. I think that we need to start painting our heroes or sporting heroes on that wall. I'm speaking into it right now. Mr. Ministers, Mr. Sports Minister especially, the A.O. Shirley Recreation Ground wall is a lot of spaces, and I think we need to start honoring our sporting heroes on that wall. Once you did something and you made it up in the big leagues, I think your picture needs to be there with a little write-up, a little bio of who it is, because you see it in every country that you go to. Why can't I see billboards now are being
there's
placed in those areas? Why can't we start putting our people on the wall? Why we can't start honoring our people? And I think that's something I'd love to see, Mr. Minister, Sports Minister. You're probably in Lechco right now, but I'm hoping that you see this on a replay. We need to start honoring our heroes.
There needs to be something because, as I'm sure you found out, trying to find the history, maybe you can talk to 1 or 2 people who'll recommend somebody else.
Exactly.
But the fact is there's nothing written. There's hardly any photographs in a central type
It is, it
location.
is.
There needs to be some sort of
That's-
historical museum with a picture or a player or whatever it may be.
And a bio about
Something
yeah.
short. Yeah, it doesn't need to be a big bio because obviously that's the other thing. Stats.
Right.
Nobody keeps stats here, or if one person doesn't tell anybody else.
There you go. And
Finding
you'd
old
have-
cricket
you'd have,
books,
You'd
for
have to kill
example.
them in order to get the stats from them.
Yeah, because it's their thing.
And this is something I think we need. And like I always say, Charlie, it's not everybody going to be a sportsman, but you can be a sports person where you fit into the different areas. Like
Oh,
you
God,
just said,
there's so many.
statisticians, referees, coaches, umpires.
Commentators.
They too need to be honored, but there are areas where folks could fit into sports. You don't have to be the player itself or the
No,
athlete.
there's a way to be involved without
course.
necessarily busting a gut or sweating up and down on a hot Sunday afternoon. You can come along, and certainly in terms of cricket and football, which I know better than most sports by being closely involved, volunteers are always welcome.
Of course.
And even sometimes there's a little bonus in it. You never know. But there's so many different things. Ball boys, ball girls. For football, it's much harder work being a ball boy in cricket because greenlands can get a bit thorny up in the hills. But,
okay, okay.
but all those little things, starting from there, scorers, as you said,
Right.
all sorts of things.
And I think, with the different associations, I think when they're doing the elections, they need to start thinking outside the box. I've been saying this for a long time, I think the problem we have, Charlie, is when we're electing our people or leaders in sports, for example, or presidents and vice presidents for the different associations, we pick our friends. And I don't think the friends come with a game plan.
Or it
the
works
sports
the
get
other way, don't
stagnated.
forget.
They get stagnated, you know, and then everybody drops out because they can't get along with this person. And I'm hating to see that.
Or one person gets on from the clique and the other three don't make it, so that one person then says to
Yeah, they
I'm not
try to
gonna
break
do
down the
anything.
sport and stuff like that.
Or they just replace you because they think they can do better, and it's
Yes.
a personal thing, and then it's even worse because there's no sustaining of the program.
Right.
If I hate what you did in netball,
You come back and change
I
it.
come and I say, forget all that nonsense. We're going to do it this way now. And then
Don't
the
stop governments.
players get confused.
Right.
The youngsters don't know what's going on because all they want to do is have an organised game, and the whole thing just falls apart. And
So-
that's every couple of years.
It's all politics, man. It's all politics.
It's terrible, really, but I don't know how you get around that.
Now, with your sport again, what would you think would help you to regain interest in cricket?
Well, I think we have the interest at the kids' level, to be fair.
You do?
There's a nice picture in the background here. I don't know whether the camera can see that.
Of course.
But we have an under-15 team that's been representing the country
I've
for
heard
the
of it.
last year.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
And in the schools, I mean, it's a numbers game, to be honest, because you're never quite sure what happens when you leave. But there's probably 200 kids a week playing cricket for an hour or so on average
In our schools?
in primary schools. Yes, yeah.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, we go. We have two-pronged attack at the moment. We have a lot of the work going on in likes of St George's, Pelican Gate, First Impression, Cedar, and those sort of non-government schools.
Right.
And then we also have a collaborative partnership right now with the community police from the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force, and they go to pretty much all the government primary schools on a rotational basis, and will do some form of cricket. And they've all been fully trained and qualified through West Indies Cricket Board programs, including child protection and Level 1 Foundation, which is the prerequisites to starting coaching.
So, Charlie, you have it right there. You started, so why haven't we been seeing little games or tournaments or stuff like that?
In terms of visibility, we have the Easter tournament, but it's been behind that blank wall of yours at the A.O. Shirley ground. So what we need to do is have some kiddie cricketers painted on the outside for every Easter.
Okay.
We've had 4 or 5, we've had 2 of those on the Shirley, no, 3 on the Shirley and 2 at Seacows Bay on the Roger Allen Park.
What's the turnout like?
That we tend to, it's limited to only 8, the top 8 primary schools. So in the past, we've kind of done it on a pre-selection basis. But as we go forwards now, we're going to hopefully have a primary school league in the new year once the football one is finished. And then it'll be down to like the group or the division winners will then get invited to the festival.
I'm gonna make a statement. I might get my head chopped off with it. Let me ask you anyway. Is the grounds in Seacoast Bay where the horse track is big enough for cricket?
Not men's cricket, no. It's no, I don't think it's any bigger than Greenland, probably a little smaller. Probably.
Is it the width or the length? Or the whole
Let
thing?
me just ask you again, which part of Seacows Bay?
I'm talking about the horse track, in the middle of the horse track.
I could have sworn you said somewhere else. Do I want to go there with you?
yeah. That's why I said I'm gonna get my neck chopped off for it. But I'm just.
Let me turn it around another way.
Okay.
A few years ago, in 2005 or 6, we had a visit from Lance Gibbs, a very famous West Indian bowler, who was then part of the Alan Stanford organisation, which, as we all know, turned out to be a little bit of smoke and mirrors. But we actually went with the then Chief Minister, who was the same Premier now, Mr. Smith. And we walked across and around and checked out all that area there, because there was talk about the Stanford thing becoming bigger and whatever. Right. And in terms of measurements, it was actually fine. It would have taken a little bit of adjustment, and there's a few awkward things, but in terms of what we had available, it was about the only space that would be big enough.
And that
still is.
That would have been legal space.
Yeah, that'd have been. We could have made that
tournament competition tournament.
I say, yeah. I mean, we could have. It could have been made good enough to play regional cricket, as in bring Jamaica in. But since then, the whole system has changed in terms of how the cricket is regionally organised. So actually, it now would not be possible to use that space to bring in the likes of Jamaica, because the whole thing has gone professional. And the West Indies Cricket Board is now mandating that only test match venues can be used for first-class games. So even the likes of St Thomas, the Cankering ground, which I'm sure you've seen,
Yes.
that's a first-class ground. But even they won't get a regional match anymore, unless the policy changes.
Okay. My next question is: have you seen anywhere on Ireland where we can?
No.
Are you serious? Man, we've been throwing so much land. We throwing so much land out there. I see you want to tell me we can't find
Well,
space?
I guess if they keep going at Brandywine Bay, we could use that eventually.
Randy, I see what you're talking about. But yeah, but we.
I mean, there are spaces available, but the problem, as you know, is flat land is premium, and cricket has to be flat, and the flatter it is, the better. There are other certain conditions in cricket where things like water table and that sort of thing can be a problem. Yes, there are areas that you could say that could be for cricket, but whether the money would be available in terms of purchasing those areas, and whether the desire to actually do that sort of a project.
No, that's
we haven't got FIFA money. You
I
see.
was about to ask you that.
I knew where you were going.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Do you guys have a board that is catered for development of cricket in worldwide, or how does that
What
operate?
we report, or we are members of initially the Leeward Islands Cricket Board, which the Leeward Islands is then members of the West Indies Cricket Board, who are then members of the International Cricket Council. So we are a very small portion of a system which overall is fantastically placed to govern cricket. We report to the Leeward Islands. So as a BVI, for example, all we could ever do is play Leeward Islands cricket, which would be playing the likes of St Kitts, Antigua,
So
Montserrat, and
we can't
Nevis.
get out of that.
No. Well, the only way around it would be to leave the West Indies, not geographically, obviously. Don't look so worried.
The reason I asked you that because you hear a lot about West Indies crickets where players come from all different countries. You said we can only make it to the Leeward Island. Can we take good players out of there and make it to the West Indies team?
Oh, yeah. Individual players could make it all the way to the top.
Okay.
We had a player here just last year who came very close to making it to the Leeward Islands franchise team, which is the pro team that plays in the West Indies Cricket Board League. So he would have been playing for the Leewards against the likes of Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, Guyana, and that lot. But as a team, no.
Okay,
As a team, we are stuck at Leeward Islands level, which means Montserrat
And how are we?
St.
How
Martin
are we in
and
that
Anguilla.
region? How are we ranked? To the bottom of the pool. I'm assuming. Come on, be honest with us.
I'm just trying to think. The last time we played a serious tournament, we were one away from the semi-finals. So I guess that makes us fifth. But to be fair, no. I mean, there's eight islands.
In the Leeward Islands.
6, 7, to be fair. Antigua has the edge. St. Kitts is very, very strong. Nevis, for an island smaller than here just about, is incredibly strong. They've got West Indies A players and ex-Test players already in their island. But St. Kitts is strong. Anguilla, for example.
I know back then they were strong.
Well, now they've got a guy who got 99 for West Indies A just yesterday.
Wow.
A guy called Jamar Hamilton, who's a very noisy wicketkeeper, a very nice guy with it. And,
But Anguilla was always, I know a few players. I know one of my cousins, I think he probably made it through, he played in an England team and stuff like that. Lanville Harrigan, I don't know if you're familiar with him. Lanville Harrigan.
No, I'll have to go check that one.
I think he was, probably scored on 99 too. It was,
okay.
and
It's
it was,
obviously a
it was
West
close to 99 a couple of times, never made the 100.
It's obviously a local Caribbean thing to not want to take all the glory, just get close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, like I say, we have to do a lot better in our sports.
Yeah, we do, but to be fair, it can't be all sports either. I mean,
Of course,
there
of
has
course,
to be some
of course.
sort of natural wastage, because otherwise, if you're spreading yourself across too many sports, here the pool of talent is small in the first place.
Exactly.
What we really need to do is sit down as people that say we're interested in the kids' welfare and their future development and work out what we're doing, because we're not doing it right.
Okay.
And I know you agree with me because I can see your finger pointing.
Folks,
There are people out there who do.
you know, on that note, we're going to take a break and come right back. Stick and stay. We're going to come back and wrap up.
Sports Desk is sponsored by Flow.
This is how we flow. This is us. This is how we work. This is how we play. This is how we live. This is us. This is how we flow.
Welcome to our newly renovated Botanic Service Station to serve you better and faster. We carry Sol Gasoline, the best gas that will take you further and keep your engine running cleaner. To make that delicious meal at home or restaurant, we have LPGs from 20 pounds to 100 pounds, readily available for your easy pickup right here at Botanic Station. While you are here, check out our deli for finger-licking snacks from pizzas, hot wings, patties, cakes, all made fresh every day, and cold drinks that's always cold. Need oil for your vehicle? We carry a wide selection of vehicle maintenance products. We are open from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. daily.
When it comes to your health, being uninsured is never an option. Listen to some sound advice. Nagico's Nagicare is one of the best medical insurance plans your money can buy. We offer you solutions to medical coverage benefits tailor-made to your budget and preferences, so that the next time you visit a doctor, you can rest assured that we've got you covered. Visit our website, nagico.com, or contact a Nagico office or agent near you. Nagico Insurances. We've got you covered.
This is us. This is how we work. This is how we play. This is how we live. This is how we flow.
Welcome back, folks. The story is just getting interesting. Behind the scenes, we had a discussion, and I think we're going to bring it to the forum right now. What we're really talking about is a broad spectrum. Like I was explaining to Charlie, right now I coach kids from different sports. I have folks from baseball, basketball, track and field, soccer, and I coach all of them basically the same preparation. And when it's time for them to do their technical stuff, then I turn them over to the coaches. And I think this is what Charlie was talking about. The problem that we have is that we get a kid and we try to lock them into one sport, and we figure, well, hey, that's a sport for you. You know, I don't want to see you in any other sports. Mm-hmm. And at that age, I think that's detrimental to what we're doing to the kids. And that's why I try to introduce the early kindergarten games where we have kids from age 3 to 6. Just out there having fun doing different sports, but basically we should be doing that up until age 15, 14, 15, 16 before we start to specialize.
Too early. Yeah.
So I think that's the same thing that you were talking about.
Yeah, competition levels and specialization is happening too quickly, and it's not giving the youngsters a fair opportunity to experience other things. And in some cases it's doing damage because they're specializing, therefore they're using the same muscle groups. The growth can be affected because of the way they're training and doing too much repetition. So we really need to look as a group of coaches across all the sports, are we, again, doing the best thing for the kids? Because we all say it, and we all go to people and say, our program has got this and that, and we're doing this, and how great and marvelous everything is. But in reality, we've been very close to the mark when it comes to actually not doing a good job. And we're hiding behind success of a false nature.
Could I bring that a little closer to home with you? And I say,
Yes.
for example, soccer, because soccer gives out nice uniforms, they have a lot of money, and they have big programs. Do you think all the kids out there are soccer kids?
No, obviously, no, it can't be. I mean, it's not possible.
But you have one of the best programs over there, or the best program right now, as far as youngsters.
Yes, but interestingly enough, I was listening to a sports show on my way here from St Thomas or St Croix, and they're just launching. I think it was football. It may have been American football, so don't get me don't let me tell you what it was until you find out.
Right.
But what they were saying is how gradual expansion at the younger ages is much better than maybe saturation levels. Because what happens is if football, which does a very good job, as you said, and has a marvellous program, is very well supported and very successful in terms of what it does. But if there's too many kids in that program and not enough coaches, what happens?
You get stagnated the same way.
You focus too much on the higher level of what you call a winning team, and a lot of people get left by the wayside.
That's what's happening right now in every sport, Charlie. It is, because we have, and I think a lot of the coach is not aware of late bloomers. So they overlook a kid that could be real good and say, you know what, I don't think you're my level right now. You know, try another sports, and that kid might come right back and show them, hey, you know, this is my time to shine.
You always got to keep an open mind as a coach, and you have to communicate and listen. That's the key thing. It's all about communication as a coach, not only with your kids or with your athletes or your footballers or your cricketers, but also amongst other coaches, and even just casual observers may notice something that you don't, because, as you say, we get very focused on what we're doing, and we tend to make it look like it's a good thing because we all think the more we have in a program, the better it is. The more teams we have in our league, the stronger it is. But it's not true.
You also mentioned something about testing. You want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, the point I was trying to make is that all coaches are taught how to do various tests to monitor fitness.
Right.
We're not actually taught what fitness means.
Right.
We may know that you have to run 90 minutes, but we don't know how to make someone run more effectively for 90 minutes. And just administering a test and writing down numbers on a box does not mean you're actually identifying any issues. So you should have specialists. We need to have, maybe as part of a policy, is that every national team, for example, has to have a national trainer who spends time identifying problems before they happen. And we follow a more modern approach. Right now, a coach tends to think he can do everything. Maybe he brings in a manager to organise the flights and the clothing. But by and large, the one thing we forget is the welfare of the athlete or the football player or the cricket player. So we need to have people who are actually trained to do fitness and that side of it, as opposed to just coaching.
I'll tell you something that I'm facing right now. I have a bunch of athletes, like I told you, I'm training, and they are under the inception that, you know, they're strong and, you know, they can do this and they can do that. And I said to them, I'm aware of what you can do, but you're not aware of what you can't do. So what I tell them, I said, I'm not really working on your strengths. I'm working on your weaknesses. So when we get both of them together, then I understand you'd be a better athlete. And by doing that now, because it changes the whole concept of the way they train, and, you know, they're feeling muscles that they never felt before, you know, and you know, it's kind of messing with it because they're so used to the same lock-in type of stuff. So now when I'm giving them different workout now, they're like, why are we doing this? I never did this before. Is this necessary? I mean, they question you and you have to say, I'm going to explain to them. I said, you know, like I told you in the beginning, I'm not working on your strengths. I'm working on your weaknesses. Because you know what your strengths are, but you don't know what your weaknesses are. And me from the outside, like you just saying, looking on, I can see, okay, well, you know, this needs to get fixed. That needs to get fixed. I may not be able to do everything, but I know I'm going to try to do as much as I can.
We're all learning new things every day.
And like I said, they're learning at the same time. So I'm saying whenever you leave me and you go on your own, you should be able to carry that knowledge with you.
Yeah, and maybe you'll spot the signs when something is not going right and causing you maybe future problems.
As coaches too, we should be able to look at talent from a distance. You know, I mean, from the mechanics, if you look at the kid throwing a ball, if you look at the kid run, jump, throw, I mean, you should be able to say, okay, well, you know, I think that kid might be good at this sport, he may not be good at that sport.
It's always kind of tricky, I guess, because it's always tough to approach another sports, especially a coach who's working with his players. Of course,
and had them players for years.
I mean, again, it's an example. It probably has actually happened too, but I've seen people, for example, working with very good coach Cliff, throwing, but they're starting from scratch at maybe 13, 14, learning how to actually throw.
Where they should have been starting a lot earlier.
He should be able to, somebody should be able to say, hey, so-and-so's got a really good arm, why don't you take a look at them? And we should be open-minded enough. Cricket, the prime example, if I see someone throw a cricket ball in 70, 80 yards on the full, and he may be not a great batsman, or I see him backing away from fast bowling, or he can't bowl because he's not sure which arm to use, I should be open-minded enough to say, hey Cliff, I've got someone for you. I don't think he's going to make it at cricket, but I think he's got a great arm.
Well, it could be a baseball player,
It
could be a nice
baseball
nice outfielder.
But what we do is we grab our people and we start them from fresh and new, like we want to mould them into something that they're not necessarily going to be.
Right.
But we should be able to pick up kids who have already got the basics of almost everything, and when they reach 12 or 13, they're ready just to be honed into the sport. I see footballers, I don't want to knock football because it's a great program, but there's kids who go through that program who still can't necessarily kick a football properly when they go to the first year of high school. Now, if we're all doing our jobs properly, that shouldn't happen.
Exactly.
By the time we see them at high school, it should just be a question of saying, yeah, he's got it, and I'll just hone a few things, improve a little thing. But the basics should all be covered, and they should all be technically average, at least.
But I'm glad that you said that too, because I've noticed a lot. I mean, I've worked with kids where 13, 14 can't even throw balls. Hand and eye coordination is
That's
not
probably
there.
my fault then. I probably had them doing kiddie cricket.
I've seen that, and I'm saying to myself, I said, this is something that we need to change, because
Yes.
when we were growing up, we never really had those opportunities, but the things that we did give us the opportunities, like, you know, throwing stones at mangoes, picking mangoes.
I'm glad you said mangoes.
Climbing trees and stuff like that. I mean, those were all mechanics. We played
Yeah.
marbles.
We were
you know,
outdoors.
skipping,
We weren't
jacks,
playing
stuff.
we
these
weren't
were-
iPads and-
these were hand and eye coordination stuff, and these taught us what we are today. But like you just said, we have a problem with obesity because our kids are locked into classrooms. They're, like you said, they're playing video games, looking at TV
basically.
screens. So they're not getting a lot of that outdoor playing. I think our government now, I can say, through the Olympic Committee, is trying to change a lot of that.
Yeah, but
There's
are
a
the
program
coaches
that's coming.
buying into it?
There's a program that's coming on stream. You know, and I'm glad to say this, that you know I've actually been doing that before they started, and you know
I think we all do to a degree.
Right,
Some
and-
of us take it a little more seriously,
right,
and
I
some of us
think
ignore it. But
once all our coaches lock into that program, I think it would give us a better concept of how our athletes are to be trained, because everybody has the same knowledge. They do the same programs, and then when, like I say, when it's time for specialization, they go into the different coaches. And I think that's the way to start.
But the basic mechanics are already in place.
Always the same.
Whether it be kicking, throwing,
Exactly.
running,
So
jumping, leaping.
Swimming, everything. They get
Bouncing.
opportunity to surround
Swimming would
themselves
be important.
around all the different sports.
Why
And
there's
like
not
you
a
said,
program here for that?
There's something that you said that sticks out, and I think I need to say it again and reiterate on it. A group of coaches from the different sports need to sit down with our government and say, okay, this is the direction we're going. Because I know we have a sports policy, but that tends to speak about something else. We need to sit down and say, okay, what are the target sports that we want to target? What is the year span? How much time we're going to spend on this? In order for us to start seeing growth. And I know, like I said, I told the kids when they were working with me, I said, listen, I don't want you for a year. I said,
No,
you know, the program goes for 2 to 4 years. I said, Olympics is in 4 years. I said, if you want to be on the Olympics, you have to start working from now. I mean, a lot of the kids that I'm dealing with is already too old. I'd like to see the younger ones doing that. But then, like I said, as they come, you deal with them.
Well, hopefully they'll become role models for the younger ones.
course,
we need
of
that.
course.
One of the things we also forget is that a 7 or 8 year old, oh my God, the phone's working. Quick, might be a cricket.
Good evening, you're on the sports desk.
Yes, Carl. Good night. Good night. Good night to you and your guests.
Yes,
Good night.
talk to us.
Listen, I feel so proud. I just come from downtown and I see, first time I see the guys them out there playing cricket
Yes, that's the industrial cricket that you're looking at.
in the middle of the track. Which
Yes,
I feel
yes.
proud because in St. Thomas have a little cowboy field smaller than in there. And those have the West Indies cricket coming and play cricket down in St. Thomas. And I'm glad to see those guys in their play.
I think Charlie could elaborate on that.
Yeah, no, it's certainly good to see it, and it's an important part of our cricket program to have those companies taking part, because it raises funds for the junior programs and makes them more successful. And yeah, it's nice to see it on the ground there with the lights on and the green grass. We're a long way from having the West Indies over, but it would be nice one day.
Yeah, it's feeling good because, you know, everything, I'm glad that they're picking up the one in Easton, and I see glad to see that the guys can do something in the middle of the track, which it never happened, you know, and saying, even to the track and field, we need to deal with the young sons them because, which I tell Myron some nights ago, Myron, we need to put the officers in the sports that they good at, that they could take care of the children at what sports they good at. Because when these athletes get too old, we don't have any other little one left.
No, it's a big
Right.
problem.
Right. So I think that the thing that the teachers them had some time ago with all of those countries, we need something like that to continue in the district and go to little kids them,
You
the
talking about
children.
CT.
Yeah, it's,
So
the sports have
something like
become
that,
too
we-
centralised too.
all right, I got it for me anyhow. God to you.
All right, thank you, my brother. You know, there's
A
some.
cricket fan. We should keep a note of who phones in from which sport, and then the most phone-ins.
There's something that he said I want to touch on.
Oh.
You know,
Uh-oh.
he said something about community sports, and I think, as he rightfully said, we used to have an active sports division department where we had sports officers dealing with different sports. I think I don't know what's going on with the youth affairs and sports department right now, but I don't think that is mandated enough. Where a lot of these sports could be played and a lot of stuff can be done. But I think that's all the PE teachers once of all need to come under one program. All the schools need PE teachers. Every school needs its own PE teachers so the programs could be expanded.
Yeah.
That's the problem that we have. We don't have enough PE teachers
yeah.
to fill these sports.
No,
and
we
don't have
don't.
enough
We
sports
don't.
officers to carry out the community sports.
But I think the problem has been, and again, I've only had just over a decade here, so I don't want to be
go
judgmental or
ahead.
anything like that. The confusion has arisen because PE teachers became sports coaches. And when they go into it, PE is not sports, as you
Right,
know.
right.
Physical education and sports are two different things.
Right.
So what we should have probably stuck with, because I'm sure it existed once, or moved back to, is that PE is done as physical education, proper
Right.
PE.
Right.
The sports are left to sports officers.
Of course.
And they're the ones who go in and do an after-school program or
Of
whatever
course.
it may
And-
be
and-
to identify the talent and put it into what then has to be association, federation, grassroots programs. So sports officers go identify an after school, but there has to be a grassroots program from every sport that they can be fed into. Because right now, where do you feed? I have a son, where do I feed him? I don't know. You just told me the first time I've heard anything for 5-year-olds.
Yeah. And like I said,
But I don't want him to do track and field.
no, it's not track and field. It's
No, I
actually
know.
yeah, it's a broad spectrum. But again, Charlie, my
But that's
thing is,
it's been confused because we've lost the focus on what we're trying to achieve.
of course,
Not just as coaches or sports bodies, but also as a government direction in terms of physical education and education system.
again, like I said, sometimes I wonder who's feeding our politicians information because the folks that are in the trenches, these are the ones that you need to come out and speak to. They have a keen understanding. And like I said, I'm tired of the, bringing in people trying to tell us what to do type of stuff. But before you go ahead, I know we getting to the end of our show.
Oh.
I know again.
One phone call.
It's
Oh,
all
sorry.
right. It's all right. It's all
That's
right.
good?
I can bring you back again, so you get some more phone calls.
I'll get some friends to call in.
Yes, but again, two folks. Again, I'd like to wrap up by saying, I'm hoping that we can organize an award ceremony for the past sports that we've had featured here, where you guys get the history. As you can see, cricket was one of the first, or the first. Charlie would like to hear that. It was one of
It was
the
that
first.
was like
It was the first sport that was established here, and there's history to show that. We featured softball, we featured track and field. These were some of the sports that made it to the higher level. And like I say, I would like to pay tribute to a lot of those pioneers who helped start it and brought it to what it is. I mean, I can go back and call some of the names that I found out while talking to folks like yourself about the sports. And some of them are still alive today. The ones that are not alive, I'm hoping that we can do an award ceremony where they can dress up. Their family can come and receive an award for them. If you guys think that I'm making any sense and you would like to help to get this started, I'd like to do it sometime in December, hopefully around the Christmas time when we have a lot of folks coming home and they can enjoy the fruits of the time. And again, to Mr. Minister, Sports Minister, I say for the wall on the A.O. Shirley Recreation Ground,
and the roof on the stand would be nice.
we need to start decorating that wall. Please, I know there's a lot of artists. I see murals painted all over the place. I see Easton has a mural. Zion Hill has a mural. Ridge Road has a mural. Let's start painting our national heroes on our stadium. It's too long being bare. I'm tired of seeing it playing concrete. I know it's not going to cost us $1 million. I mean, a little bit of paint and some artists, I know they'll go to work on it. And I said it, Charlie, I said it.
You did.
It's not going to. You didn't say it.
I was off camera with my reaction.
Yeah, you didn't say it. I said it. So again, folks,
it's a nice wall, though.
It's been a pleasure having Charlie here. Again, Charlie, you're always welcome to come back. I'm looking for a co-host now. As you can see, my co-host has left me.
You're a co-host without a co. That just makes you a host.
I need to talk to Paul's mom. I'm trying to find out what's wrong with him. I'm not seeing him for a few now. It seems like, he's off and running all the time.
He's a busy man with his
But again, folks, I want to thank you guys for tuning in again. It's been my pleasure having you guys tune in all the time. We are looking for more phone calls, but Charlie didn't get them.
His phone's not working.
But from Anagata to Just Van Dyke, Virgin Garter, and Tortola, I want to say it's been fun having you guys tune in again, and we'll see you next week. Have a good one.
Sports Desk is sponsored by Flow.